Welcome back, everybody, to the Go Blue with Stu podcast. Today, we got one of my 08-09 backcourt mates, David Merritt. David, I appreciate you coming on, man. How's it going?
Everything is well, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Isn't it wild to think about how long ago that was?
It was a very long time ago. Seems like a lifetime.
I was like bringing back memories in preparation for this episode and just forgot like everything. I was like, we did what?
Yeah. That was Coach Beilein's second year. And it definitely does seem like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. I want to get into that and some Coach B stuff. But before we do that, I want to talk about the current team. You said you've watched a little bit of it. You know, quick thoughts on some of the struggles and some of the positives. Like, what have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would have expected the start that they've had. But I think you get so used to winning that sometimes you forget how hard it is, especially with transition, and you have different people coming in. You got a lot of young guys. You did have able to bring Hunter and Eli back, but it takes time to build continuity. And I think that's the hope here, especially on the defensive end, because I think that's where the team hopes to have is a lot of improvement in addition to the 3-point shooting. But, you know, defense is all about effort. It's all about teamwork. It's all about communication. And a lot of times you have new pieces. It's tough to build that continuity. So I think you believe in the culture that's been set, and you know that they're going to get better and better each day. You know, hopefully the ceiling is still as high as we thought it would be.
Yeah.
That is the hope by the end of, you know, the Big Ten season, that they're playing well. I think that's the best time to play well is in March, heading into the tournament, February and March. So hopefully they can continue to improve, start to get some good wins under their belt. But you look at the schedule and you look at the games that they have won, you don't really see a signature win just yet.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can have that come soon here in the Big Ten season.
Yeah, definitely. And like I've talked about it over and over on this podcast with other people, and like defined roles is something that is so underrated. And like our team in 08-09 wasn't as talented as this team, but we had defined roles right out of the gate. Like, you know, I came in as a freshman, like if I wanted to play, I had to define role. And a guy like Caleb Houston's coming in, his role isn't completely defined. Like he's got to find his footing, he's got to find his confidence, and then find some of those confidence defensively. Like people have been talking about his defense and stuff. Like that is stuff that you got to figure out. Like you're not going to get 10 games in the year. Like I got lucky in times because that was like what I focused on. If I had to do both all the time, it'd been ridiculous. So give this team some patience and, you know, continued patience. I think guys are, you know, Michigan has high standards. So they're like always like, well, what's going on? It's like these things take time to build. Like you see with the football team, like it takes years sometimes. So
yeah. And I think that's an important point, Stu, that you make. I think players and coaching staff are still finding out what players can and can't do. And that's helpful when defining roles. And when you have such talent, sometimes you think you're going to have certain skills in different areas. So they're still figuring it out and got a lot of time to do so. So we're hoping for great things still.
Yeah, it reminds me of the literally first rep of the first drill of my first practice, and Beilein called me soft. And I thought we were like kind of like half-assing it a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is how it's going to be. And then looking back on it, you know, like junior, senior year, I was like, oh, freshman, sophomore year, like he had me pigineholed exactly what I was going to do. And like this team doesn't have that. That's a luxury, honestly. So there'll be times. But I wanted to ask you, because your journey was very interesting in basketball. I want to start out, like, what made you try out junior year? Were you practicing at all freshman and sophomore year with them?
No, well, so my dream from a ninth grade basketball player, very short, not incredibly skilled, but I wanted to be a Division I basketball player. My brother was first team All-State his senior year. I was a freshman. And so I made a decision and a goal as a ninth grader, like I was going to play Division I, and worked my butt off, worked my tail off every single day. and got good, but didn't get any Division I offers. But I was fortunate to get a scholarship, an academic scholarship to Michigan. So I was just like, I want to make the team as a walk-on. Like, I'm going to school, but school's secondary to me making the team. And so that third year that I made it was actually my third tryout.
Gotcha.
I tried out 2 times before, felt I had played well enough, had gone to open gyms in the summer, had made sure that the staff knew who I was, and I just wasn't coming in for tryouts, but I was doing everything I could to really cultivate a relationship. But it wasn't until that third year that I actually made it. But it was a goal of mine ever since the 9th grade.
Dang, I had no idea it was that intense. And like to think about your journey, try out again, finally make it. And then 5th year, we make the tournament for the first time in however many years. Like that's like a Cinderella story. That's like Rudy has nothing on that.
The thing was when Coach V came in, he also didn't guarantee any of the walk-ons a spot. Of course, CJ kind of got his guaranteed spot, but for me, I had to try out again. I had to try out a 4th time, even after I had made the team. Stayed on the team, Coach Beilein's first year.
No, that adds up with all the standards that he had for like in those years. I think he relaxed them when I graduated, but all the standards and everything, that makes complete sense. You couldn't even practice until you finished all your raps and everything. It's just wild. I don't think any coach in the history of basketball has ever done that, but that adds up completely. What was your transition like from Amaker, and then like the first few weeks with Beilein, where you're like, okay, this is different? Like where did you see that?
I think of course, the things that we were working on were kind of like totally different, especially from a skill development standpoint. I remember our first practice. So this is a little bit before you got there. So when the transition happened, the team that was already in place had our first practice, and literally for like 45 minutes, we're working on scoop layups and passing and catching the ball on 2 feet. And everyone's like, what is like what are we doing? Like, we know how to make layups and we know how to pass the ball. And so immediately, everyone's like, I don't know about this. But you kind of quickly saw, even when you took those little drills and then you started playing, you could kind of see what he was saying, because in the game or when in a scrimmage or just playing open gym, like when I caught the ball on 2, I was better prepared to do things. Like, and I wasn't traveling. And so you kind of quickly saw, oh, this donut and this waffle actually works. And so I just think that those weird things that you were working on, you could kind of see in a game setting why it was important to work on that. So it was just a lot of different attention to different activities and different skills that you quickly saw when Beilein came in.
You guys finished that year, Beilein's first year, winning 5 of the last 10, made like a lot of progress and looked pretty good. What was that like a point of buy-in in terms of like a team? Like I can see like you buying in earlier, being like, okay, I'm seeing some progress here, but in terms of like a whole team, did you feel some sort of buy-in, or did it take a little bit of time with Beilein?
I would say it was 2 things. One, we were in a lot of games, but we had these like 4-minute lapses and stretches where our mind just left us and we would lose the game. And so I think we were learning how to lose and also learning how to win at the same point in time. And so I think that was key. And then in addition to that, Coach Beilein's perspective and his sort of attitude, I think, was extremely helpful. His mantra, let's just get better today, I think held true, especially with a lot of those losses where you didn't feel like it was the end of the world, even though you were 10-22. You felt like you were improving by him being able to kind of put it in that, day-to-day activity, practice to practice perspective, I think was really helpful for our psyche. to not be just to still have hope that we were doing something positive. So I think it was those two things that kind of led into some of the momentum to when you and Zach got there.
What was that first year like with like the culture change? I know in my first 2 years, the big thing for Beilein was him still changing the culture. Mm-hmm. And like there were guys still left over that were amateur guys. And I think there was some, heads butt there at times. What was that like the first year? There's like patience, or was he coming in day one, like, buy in or get out?
I think there was definitely some of that. Of course, there was some turnover. He does things in a very specific way. Didn't necessarily connect with all the guys. We had people that ended up leaving at the beginning. We had people leaving towards the middle. But I think overall, I think there was buy-in, even though the system was different. I think everyone respected Coach. I think he was still down to earth and cared, showed that he cared about you as an individual and not just you as a basketball player. So I think it was at that point in time, it was more on individuals taking accountability and responsibility for, it was more like the players as opposed to necessarily creating a team culture. It was how can we buy into being team oriented, but also holding ourselves accountable and holding each other accountable, that I think worked for his first few years.
Yeah, that was huge my junior year. We made a turnaround with Tim and Darius. Like when the players realized, like when we start taking responsibility for ourselves and quit pointing fingers, we can actually win some games and be good. So like coaches do have a massive amount of control in college basketball, but the players have to realize like, oh, I still have responsibility to win games and buy in completely. I was looking back and I totally forgot that Ekpe left. And I was like, damn, that team would have been, I could have been even better. What was that news like when you found out he was leaving?
Yeah, Ekpe was actually in my wedding about a month ago. So me and Ekpe are still extremely close. My brother, but so I knew pretty early on that he was leaving. But it was tough, right? Like we did everything that we could to keep him here. It just didn't work, and he felt that in a different environment, his game could expand and he could be doing more. Not that I don't think that it was that he didn't have the opportunity to, but I just think he was looking for a different environment. But it was tough because we were all close, and we all wanted him to stay, but we couldn't hold on to him.
Yeah, no, I mean he did damn well Baylor, and then post Baylor, I think he did just fine, but that would have been a lot of fun to play with him, especially like defensively when all the pressure that we had on the perimeter, like to guard and like get up tight and like get around screens. And like if you knew Ekpe was back there, it made it so much easier. Nothing against Deshaun or Zach or anything, but Ekpe was a different defensive animal. I was picturing us, and like sometimes I'll go back and look at the UCLA game and I have a freaking bowl cut. And I was thinking about like you, me, I got you and CJ walk-ons that got scholarships, and Kelvin and me. And it was like, we have had one of the least intimidating backcourts in all of the Big Ten. And how did we beat these teams and still win? But I never like went into the game thinking that we were not intimidating, but the other teams had to be looking at us like chopped liver.
Well, I think you're selling yourself short. You were pretty good even as a freshman, and had a really great career for anyone's standards. So I think you're selling yourself. I think selling you and Zach and even CJ and Calvin. I think we played extremely hard. We knew our role, and I think we prepared. And so you knew we were going to give 40 minutes of our all, and a lot of times I think that is taken for granted. And I think that year we were, not to say that we didn't have, I mean, we lost 14 times, so it's not to say we were perfect or anything, but we were a team. And a lot of times when you have a close-knit team that believes in itself, you can do some amazing things. And I think that's how you go from 10-22 to 21-14 and a second round close loss to Blake Griffin in Oklahoma.
Yeah. That year is obviously highlighted by making the tournament after so many years. But for me, the biggest thing that stands out is that UCLA game. And it like proving to us that we can do it. And if we do it the right way, and like we would have a bad game, and even in the back of everybody's mind, even though it's unspoken, like, okay, we did this before, we made the mistakes. We didn't make the mistakes that game. We got to go back to where we were then. Like for me, that UCLA game is top 5 of my career, maybe even higher than that. I don't know where that stands for you. But that was like a big pinnacle of my career. Was that as fun for you as it was for me?
It was, man. And it's like, you just look at who's across from you and you're like, man, we beat Darren Collison, NBA player. We beat, these guys at Madison Square Garden. I think that's what really made the moment. It was on the world's biggest stage. And you got so many Michigan fans in the New York area that just made it extremely special. And I even look at the second game, which we lost, I think by double digits to Duke, but it wasn't like we weren't supposed to be there, right? Mm-hmm. So like, it wasn't like the moment was too big for us. They played better than us that night. But I think those 2 games kind of solidified for us, like if we bring it, we could pretty much play with anybody. And I think that showed itself throughout the year. We had a very tough schedule. I think we played at Connecticut at the time. They were the number one team. So we played Duke again, beat them at home. So I think you're right. That UCLA game proved to us that we could win basketball games that year.
Yeah, definitely. 2 quick anecdotes. One is that I made Drew Holiday's highlight package from that game for the draft, and I was like, yeah, we won that game. So I didn't feel too bad. And the second one was that I think it was Coach Jack got the Duke scouting report for our game at Madison Square Garden. And it was glowing for like every player. And I was like, oh, damn, like they take us seriously. Like I didn't know what to expect because I'm just a young kid coming in, don't know what to expect. I was like, oh, we're serious. Like people respect us. Yeah. And I mean, even Duke. And I was like, okay, something can happen here. And that was like another big light bulb moment for me. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, looking back on that year was pretty crazy. And going through the stats, did you know that we like set 3-point records, like in attempts and makes and everything? I didn't realize we were doing that. And on top of that, you were our best 3-point shooter. Well, now that you can't shoot, but it was like, oh, like, why didn't we let Dave shoot more?
The thing was here, real quick story. So Pat Beilein, at the end of the year, I think I was up to 40%. I was shooting 40% from 3. And I'm just feeling really good about myself. I don't shoot a lot of them, but I feel good about my percentage. And he's like, we're going into the tournament. He's like, the tournament's different. I'm like, what are you talking about, Pat? He's like, those 1 to 2 3-pointers you make like a game, like you're not going to make those. Like it's a different atmosphere. it's a different atmosphere.
What the hell?
And I went 0 for 3 during the tournament from 3. And I dropped my percentage. I think I finished at like 36 that year. But I was much better until the tournament, man. I still remember this.
That's cocky Pat because he did it in the tournament. And he wants to remind you how hard it was for him and how good he was. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, that game, that tournament was like eye-opening for me. We looked across at Clemson and they were one of the most intimidating lineups that we saw. And then we got in the game and it was like, do these dudes even know how to play basketball? It was really bizarre. Like, I feel like we should have won by even more.
Yeah.
Oklahoma was very different. They were intimidating, good, and they knew what they were doing. But that first game, I was like, we won that. And I was like, I wish we just didn't run in Oklahoma. I feel like there was other teams that we could have beat and made a real run.
Yeah. I mean, but to be honest, like, I think we were up by 1 point at half against Oklahoma, down by 1 point. Our whole team was in foul trouble and still had a shot. Like, so as good as that Oklahoma team was with Blake, like, it's not like they just ran us off the floor.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But yeah, still, I don't know if it was it was just seeing Blake Griffin and knowing he had that infamous picture a dunk on Zach. And then he hit his head on the backboard at one point, I think, during our game. And I was like, this is just a little different. Like, there's just a little bit different level. But it's a tournament, so you can still win. But yeah, is there any like other memories? The UConn game, I just forget the Duke game was insane. You know, and I forget too that the one thing that haunts me, this memory, it always plays in my head. I watched this highlight of our game against Michigan State. I think it was freshman year. Pretty sure it was freshman year, where I threw a lob to Petey.
Yeah.
And Darrell just grabbed his jersey and they highlighted it. They did like a color highlight and they showed it. And then Petey I threw the pass off by like a half a foot and it was there. And I was like, but you know what? That set up my shot my junior year to like beat them and like make it even bigger. So I was like, I don't know, give or take there. But
I think that was your sophomore year, but
okay.
But yeah, like for me, I think we started 13-4. And so we're feeling really good about ourselves. And we just hit a stretch where we just weren't playing great basketball in the Big Ten. And even though we had those 2 early wins against top 5 opponents, it got a little dicey whether or not we were kind of headed for the tournament. And I think the best part for me that year is anytime our back was against the wall and we like had to win a ball game, we won that ball game. And it was multiple times throughout the year. I remember we had to win versus Penn State at home. We had to win versus Purdue. And then coming down the stretch, we had 2 road games, Wisconsin and Minnesota. And we kind of had to win one to make sure that we were going to be headed to the tournament. We didn't win at Wisconsin, still played well. But that Minnesota game is also one because we were down, I believe, like 15 points in the second half. And like every moment that we had to do something that year, we had the mental fortitude to do it. We came back and won on the road that last regular season game, and then beat Iowa in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. But that's what's special for me is like you got a team where not a lot is expected of the team, but anytime we were against the ropes, we fought back and we won, or we did something that no one expected us to do. And that's what's special for me, even looking back, 12 years is that special bond we all had by playing that year together as a team.
Yeah, it's the most fun being an underdog. And I think to that point, my sophomore year, we went in ranked, and like the biggest compliment to you and to CJ as well is how horrible we were that year. And we're like, where's Dave and CJ? Do they have a 6 year of eligibility? Please bring them back. We need some help, because we were lost. We were completely lost. And we never, I mean, I appreciated you, but like, we didn't appreciate you guys as much until sophomore year. We were looking around and like, what's off? Like, what's missing? We should be better. And we weren't. And like, that's the point, kind of what the team is going through this year, I think. And it's like, you're just missing those solid pieces, leadership, guys that are doing the right thing. You know, how was that for you, your senior year, you and CJ kind of leading, but, you know, not expected to produce? It's a very interesting position to be put in. And I've been put in a few times. And sometimes, you know, I've been in it where I've been overseas and coaches are pulling me aside and they're like not playing me more than 5 minutes. And they're like, you need to talk to the players. I'm like, how are they going to respect me if you're not putting me in the damn game? Like, they don't care what I'm doing. And so I thought of you in that sense. Like, what was your mindset and what was the struggles dealing with that sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was totally different than high school, where I was the best player and I was scoring 25 points per game. I knew like my max, even though I felt like there were still things I could do that I didn't accomplish at Michigan from a personal standpoint. At that point, it was all about the team, and it was all about how can we make sure that you guys are ready and prepared to give it your all. And CJ was an amazing example to just follow, but every single day you kind of have to answer that question, like, are you willing to be your best today? Like, is this the day where you're going to slack off and not bring it? And I can honestly say for that entire season, every single day, I was the exact same person. Like I was the exact same. And I had to make the decision every single day. And knowing like, I think I averaged 2 points. I know I averaged 2 points per game. So I wasn't necessarily contributing, much to the score. But it was being willing to say things when it's uncomfortable to say things to people that don't necessarily respect you from a basketball standpoint,
right?
But still being willing to say them because they need to be said.
Yeah.
And I think that's the role that we just committed to. Where I can remember a few times where I said things that weren't popular to say, but I was kind of going to be the only one willing to say it. And whether they like you or not, it is what it is. It needs to be said.
Yep.
And those types of experience also like help me even today in the organizations that we run, and the times in which you have these uncomfortable moments where you're going to be the only one, or it's not popular, but it's the right thing to do. I can look back to that Michigan experience and say, you were willing to do it there. Why can't you do it again?
Yep.
Even if it makes you uncomfortable, these are the things that need to be said. I don't remember much about school, but those moments are like a daily nugget for me to go back to and still utilize to this day. Like, it's incredible. It doesn't even make any sense how much sports and basketball kind of show up in your everyday life.
For sure. It's all the time where there's something I don't want to do, and I'm like, damn it, I've done it before. I know what's right. I got to do it because I did it before, and I got to stay consistent. And it is one of the most difficult things to do. And like, your position was unenviable, and you came in every day and were consistent. And that was like the big thing with you and CJ. It was like, well, they're showing up, so I got to show up. And that would put pressure on the next player, and that would put pressure on the next player. And like, those that unspoken, like, you guys definitely did speak up and say things that were needed when people didn't want to hear it. But for me personally, it was you showing up every single day, doing your job, not getting the shots, maybe sometimes not the playing minutes that you want, still getting ridiculed on film like everybody else was. And that was dead serious. Like, the biggest example for me, my junior and senior year, and I think why Zach and I were successful, is because we saw that. And it's funny to think about. I just made the connection. Like, CJ was a little more fiery. He was always like fidgety. I always picture him as like being on caffeine all the time. And you were just like, hey, I'm Dave. Like, I'm here, man. I'm showing up. And like, I was more like you, and CJ is more like Zach. Yeah. And that contrast is needed. It was needed, but at the same time, you guys showed up every single day. So I want to personally thank you. I've never thanked you for that. And I don't know why I haven't, because that's ridiculous that I haven't, but like, looking back, like, that was the biggest example for me. So I really, really do appreciate that. I don't know if you can accept compliments like that, but I'm being dead serious.
Amen. Well, I thank you for that. And again, I can't even take credit for it, because CJ was doing it before me. Like, I remember, the first year I got on the team, and CJ isn't playing. Like, he's a transfer. Like, he cannot play a basketball game. Mm-hmm. And this dude is like talking, and I'm like, CJ, shut up. Please shut up. And he did not care. He did not care. He thought that was the right thing to do, and he wasn't going to change who he was because you thought differently.
Yep.
And so when it got to my opportunity to lead, all I had to do was like look right there and be like, okay, he is the same person no matter what people say. And I was like, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna say stuff that needs to be said, and I'm gonna be selfless. Like, and so you thank me, I thank CJ.
I love that. That train, it builds. It just keeps building. That's why they're at where they are now. A funny story about that. Bringing back memories of CJ just constantly talking. The highest motor of mouth I've seen in a while. It was a game. We were at Ohio State, and Novak hit what was it, PJ something, and he elbowed him. He got thrown out. We got back in the locker room, and we're down. I think we got blown out. I don't know. Ohio State was just ridiculous, and CJ just going off on Zach, and CJ is like a repeater, so he was going off on Zach. He's like, "You're gonna get suspended. Like, you just messed up. Like, you're suspended." And he said suspended like 6 times, and about the sixth time, I don't know where it came from, but I was like, that's enough, CJ. Like, he gets it. Okay. He feels bad. Like, leave it alone. And I think it was like CJ didn't realize he was talking. He was just going. And because immediately when I said it, I felt kind of bad, but he like immediately stopped. Like, I kind of see, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm done. Like, I said what I said, but that's true. He was just consistent. Like he to a point where it was such a habit where you don't even have to think about it, which was, that's the best kind of good habits you can build. Although sometimes it comes out like that, but that was fun.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I remember you also specifically, you never tied your damn shoes.
No.
How did you play with I couldn't tie my shoes tight enough. I don't understand how you play. We all looked at you like you were insane. You were the shoelace before shoelace.
I don't know, man. My at that point, you know, the things were so big, like, you know, the jerseys, the everything was big. So it was hard for me as a small guy, you know, to be fresh out there because everything was oversized. I needed to play in this era. This is the era that I needed to play in.
I'm so upset, man. In this past 2 years, I just learned that I can wear a headband and I don't need to put product in my hair to keep it back. Like, I'm wearing tights, you know, clothes that fit me. And I was like, why couldn't I have been born now? Like, this would have been so much easier for me because it was uncomfortable. Do you still own the oversized velour suit?
Dude, they're like 18 sizes, like longer than I can't even fit anything that I wore back then.
It was like a medium was like, they said medium and it was actually the 2XL. They're like, yeah, that's what basketball players like. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not. I don't want it boot cut going past my heel. It was ridiculous. What did I want to ask you about? Oh, I wanted to get into some fun stuff. We got a little more questions, but nothing crazy. I want to get into some Merritt goodness, but there's some more basketball stuff I want to get into. Okay. The one thing, another just anecdote that I want to give you a compliment on. You gave me literally one of my favorite compliments. It still rings in my head all the time, and you won't remember it, but we were in open gym, and you know, you're a type of player where you're not going to get recognized, you know, by people, and you do things and you're like, I made a hell of a play and nobody even really cared. So we're in open gym and I catch a rebound and it's like opposite end. We're going opposite end. I'm at the free throw line. I take one dribble with my left hand and I just kind of one hand shovel pass, a left hand, just perfect, right in somebody's lap for a layup. And you like had like a mini freak out and you're like, unbelievable. That was beautiful. And nobody said anything. And you're like, people don't understand that. That was just ridiculous skill. And I was like, I really like Dave. Dave's a really nice guy. I really love him. He's cool. And Dave gets it. And to this day, like, this is how insecure my brain is. To this day, I still love, that's one of my favorite compliments I've ever gotten.
Man, you were definitely my favorite on the team. Like,
I love you.
From a skill standpoint, from just a moxie standpoint. You know, we were doing our office quotes and everything.
Yep.
I still tell people, like, me and Stu's relationship his first year is still special to me. It's still special to me.
Same. No, we had such like similar demeanors and we laughed the same. We were serious, but we could be not serious. And like, we just had a good combo, and it was like an unspoken agreement. And it was like, oh yeah, you and me, we get it. So that was fun. So I always cherish that for sure. I wanted to get into some of the Merritt goodness stuff. You know, I remember when you started it and you invited us to a presentation on campus in that auditorium, and you were going through it. And like, I never like had like a friend or a teammate do this before, you know, oh, Dave's starting a clothing company. Like, what's he doing? Like, everybody does this stuff. Like, you don't know what to expect, but, you know, I always believed in you, but you were doing that presentation and I was like, holy hell, like, this is real. Like, this guy is serious. He's put a lot of thought into it. This is like a real thing. This isn't like some guy printing off shirts. Like, there's a real message here. How long did that take you to come up with? Where did that start? And then take me through that presentation, just how nervous you were to start this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still to this day, we don't feel like we're where we want to be, but
Sure.
it's it was just a blessing from God, and worked years on it, and are still working. I think what keeps us going, what kept us going then, what continues to keep us going, is just the value that we see in young people here in the city of Detroit. And so, even though it's fashion, we have other mechanisms, but we just see those as channels. Like, we get to create products, we get to create programs that really allow young people to discover the creativity in themselves to create their own future. And so to this day, we still have both sides of our organization. Mm-hmm. On the fashion side is
explain it a little bit, because I can't do it as well as you. Explain to the people.
Yeah. So on the fashion side, it's Merritt. We donate 20% of our company profits to fund our nonprofit work. And this is our 10th year running a special program here in the city called FATE, which is now an 8-year program for high school students in the city, starting in their 9th grade, following them through their high school graduation and also their college graduation. And the program is steeped in creativity, problem solving, entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And if the students complete the high school portion, we guarantee them up to $8,000 in college scholarships. Wow. And currently this year, we're working with about 150 Detroit youth at the current moment.
What's been some of the biggest, struggles and success? Some, a lot of, take me through the ups and downs of this whole process. I'm sure it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, it's very similar to my basketball journey. Like, it's extremely similar. And I think if I didn't have the journey that I had basketball wise, I probably would have quit a long time ago.
Interesting.
Because, it is so challenging and it is so difficult. We're trying to do things that normally, in school, or I definitely have mentors who tell me not to approach it this way, but we're trying to build 2 organizations at one time, which is not necessarily recommended.
Yes.
And so at times it feels like one is being successful, one is not being successful. But what I tell people is, like, I'm going to be doing this long enough to where it's going to work someday. Like, yeah. I'm fully confident it's going to work someday. And then also, like, to just look at the type of impact that we're having with young people on a daily basis, and the relationships that we have, and to know how they're being impacted on a daily basis, like, allows me to get past the challenges and get past the times in which I feel like a failure. We've opened and closed 3 stores. We had a store in Ann Arbor, we had to close it. We've been at a few malls and had pop-up shops, had to close it. And at those moments, it's like, man, this is not successful. But you just got to recenter yourself, remember why you do what you do. Very similar to my basketball experience. And, like, the more and more you invest in something, like, it's that much harder to give up. And so we're so invested in young people that we'll figure it out. And we've had success. Like, we've grown, are now supporting 150 people on the nonprofit side. We now have a team around like 11 or 12. We're a multi-million-dollar nonprofit organization, doing whatever we can, but it's just been this slow process, this walk of faith each year, doing more and more. So it hasn't been easy, but it's been more than fulfilling.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And we talked about before, you have the perfect mindset, the perfect story, the perfect experiences. Like, what it takes. I have zero doubt that you will take it where you want to take it. But what are those future goals?
Yeah, so we got a few big projects that we're working on right now. We've been working on this, we're calling it a holistic life skills training and fitness center across the street from where we are in a Detroit neighborhood. It's taking all of these best practices in, like, sport and play, parks, placemaking, retail, and, like, combining it into this very innovative neighborhood space that you would not expect to be. We live in a neighborhood that's been forgotten and neglected and has not received the type of resources that it should receive. And so we're doing this project to tell people here in the city of Detroit that this is what you warrant and this is what you should be getting. And it's right in your neighborhood where you live. And so we've been working on this project for about 4 years, and our hope is to break ground on it in 2022. And so that's going to be a big part of our future, being able to work with countless young people throughout the city of Detroit.
I imagine it's frustrating to see the lack of funding and resources year over year. Is there any progress being made there? You know, it seems I could go on and on about public school systems. I have my issues with Indy. You know, I went to Carmel High School, massive high school. Mm-hmm. I sat next to a $15,000 star projector for my astronomy class, and then I'm reading the paper that like they can't buy books at IPS, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So, is there any progress being made on that end, or are you just going to keep your head down and keep kind of doing what you're doing?
Yeah, well, at the current moment, you know, it's extremely sad, and you kind of hate that it's like happening out of this environment with COVID, but with all the money, with the rescue plan, ARPA dollars, and there's just so much money that states and cities and school systems are going to be getting. The current thought is like, over the next few years, you're in like a once in a lifetime environment that money may not be the issue. Mm-hmm. Money may not be a challenge. It's going to be more so, you know, are people going to be utilizing the money in a thoughtful way, in an equitable way, to ensure that these systematic and systemic issues are being addressed. So people are having a little bit of hope because it appears like money is going to be available, but still unsure, is it going to be sliced up in a way differently than maybe it's been sliced up before.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes efficiency. That makes a lot of sense. Where can people go check it out? How can people help?
Yeah. And so on the fashion end, our website is merrittgoodness.com, just the word Merritt. Our youth development work, you can see at Give Merritt, again, the word Merritt.org. And follow us on social media, Merritt Goodness, Fate Detroit. But yeah, we're trying to, we need mentors to come in and help with our students, but also, again, as always, raising money so we can go out and do what we do even more and on a bigger scale. So any support is greatly appreciated.
Definitely. Okay, I got 3 quick hitters, kind of quick hitters before we get you out of here. Appreciate your time. I knew this would go longer than I said it would, because I always love talking to you. But another anecdote between you and me that I forgot about, I wrote it down here. Maybe the only charge I took in my entire college career was in practice, and I was guarding you, and you drove right, and I like basically tripped into getting in front of you, and you just hit me perfectly, and I fell down. Didn't even try and take a charge. They called it charge. Everyone was happy for me, and like Beilein always gave me crap about not taking charges, especially compared to Novak, who was charge king. Right. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, not say anything. I'm just going to take the praise and move on. And you were like, this dude didn't even try to take a charge. What are you guys talking about? And like everyone's clapping, and you're like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, Dave, I'm sorry, man. I got to keep my mouth shut. I got to take it because charges were that important. You knew that.
Oh man. Oh, I wish I could go back, man.
Oh, that was fun, man. I have the worst memory, but reliving this, that year was a lot of fun. So much fun. All right, well, 3 quick hitters, a little bit we'll get into, and then we'll sign off here. Number 1, the game against Oklahoma, your last game. Take me through what you were feeling right when the buzzer hit, and then when you got in the locker room. What were your emotions? What were your thoughts? Was it relief? Was it sadness? You know, what was it?
It was sadness, but it also was fulfillment, because again, like I knew for me personally, my career was over, but I knew I had literally given every ounce out of this 5'10", 160-pound body could give. Like non-athletic body could give. Like I had literally given it all.
Yep.
And then I can remember we went out to eat with you and Shep and Sean and also it was, I felt great because like I felt like I was going to be a part of what you guys were going to accomplish. I felt fulfilled that not only did I get to be a part of that special year, but also like just feeling like you had a piece of what was going to be built moving forward. So although it was sad, I wasn't down because I knew I'd given my all.
That's a hell of a perspective. It took me years and years to get that fulfillment from it. So for you to get that right away, that shows your maturity and your state of mind. Eventually you get there.
When you average 2 points, like you don't like, I had to have that state of mind. Like I wasn't going anywhere.
That's fair. But it's still not easy. No matter who you are, it's still not easy. So I'll give you credit there. Okay, real quick hitter, Skeeps or Ricks? Oh, this is the most.
Skeeps.
Okay, that was the most anybody has thought about it. Wow. But you are in line with literally everybody else. So I appreciate that. Okay, last one. What is one thing that you learned at Michigan that you still carry with you to this day? We kind of talked about it, but if you want to give a different answer.
But it's going to be from Coach Beilein. Like literally, it was something that stuck out to me while I was playing for him, and it's something that still sticks out to me doing what we do on a daily basis. Let's get better today. Like you can't look at it from a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year. Like break it down. Are you going to give your best and you're going to pay attention to what you are currently doing? And if at the end of the day, I can say, hey, I got better today. I had a 365, I got better today's, and I'm going to be much further than I was last year. And it's literally something we talk about still on a daily basis, doing what we do. So it stuck with me and something that I still utilize.
Yeah, I feel like I want to run through a brick wall right now talking with you. I forget how inspiring it was to talk to you. Like you were born to be a leader, and I am like jazzed up now. I feel like I'm going to go work out. It's like almost 7.
You know what's interesting about that? I've always felt, especially up until Michigan, that I was not born to be one.
Interesting.
And literally looking at CJ, I believe that year taught me, not to say that you don't have innate skills and abilities, but it's literally the decision to step outside of your comfortability, like to step outside of what you want to do naturally. Like, I don't want to come in here and motivate people. Like, I want to just take a day off. Like,
yeah,
I just want to come in and sit in the corner. Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I can't do it because other people need me. So it's literally every single day making the decision that I'm literally going to be someone that I would rather not be, because it's better for me to be that way for you in our environment and our team and our organization. And so I think that has been the biggest learning experience, is like, we actually all possess the ability, but are we all willing to make that decision that will sacrifice our own well-being for the well-being of other people?
That's a very interesting point. My dad taught me very early on, like 90% of life is simply showing up. And we have this, we have these phrases, talk is cheap, yet we look at leadership as only talking. And like, that's not the case. Like, you got to show up and be consistent.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to learn that in college. And it seems like it took you a while to learn that. Like, yeah, I can lead like that. And then gain the confidence to speak up and motivate and do all that stuff. So it's a process. People
will definitely listen to what you say, but more than that, they're going to watch what you do.
Yep. For sure. Dave, I don't know why I haven't talked to you more. I am one of the worst people at connecting. Now that I'm retired, I'm like,
Two ways, man. It's a two-way street.
I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I haven't stayed connected with any Michigan people. So when I get up to Michigan, I want to come see you. I'm definitely want to go to a game. I don't know if I can make the alumni game, but I want to get up there and see people and reconnect, and, better late than never. So
let's do it, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you, dude. I really appreciate you taking the time. This was great. And hopefully we'll down the road, we can get some more updates from Merritt and Merritt goodness, and we can talk some more.
Let's do it, man. Go Blue.
All right. Go Blue. Dave, you're the best.